Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Gobble, 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 gobble. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 381 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone as we're filming this here live on Tuesday evening, 2 days before one of my favorite holidays of the year, Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us as we're going to be covering the Thanksgiving Day stakes at Churchill Downs on Thursday and the graded stake races on Friday. So graded stakes Thursday and Friday. There are 4 of them total. We are here to cover those stakes with you. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of the screen, the notification bell on the top right hand side of the screen, and smash that like button. We would greatly appreciate it below the video player, because every time you do that, little angels come down from heaven and send people to the HHH Racing Podcast. No angels, nothing from heaven, but it does push people to our podcast. We would greatly appreciate it. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Below the video player, we talk about our Power Picks tip sheet, which is highly affordable, highly recommended, very profitable. We got a great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. And also like to mention that this podcast, and in fact, all of our podcasts, are sponsored by the Adelphi Racing Club. Matt Cutier, racing manager. Check out Adelphi Racing Club at adelphiracing.com or Matt Cutier's email, matt@adelphiracing.com. All right, without further ado, one of our co-hosts is doing what's more important in this podcast, which is with family from out of town for dinner. But my other wonderful co-host, he's got family right here. We don't need to be going out to dinner. We've got it right here on the show. Let's bring him on from the East Coast of Maryland. And as he's laughing at me now. Now he's laughing at me. The East Coast of Maryland and the proud author of our wonderful podcast website, which is tremendous. Let's bring him on, Mr. Pete Visco. Pete, how you doing tonight?
What's up, man? I'm actually using this to get away from my family who are upstairs. So yes, we'll have enough time together on Thursday. So today, and yes,
that'd be another good reason to do the podcast, to get away from the family.
To get away every once in a while. By the way, Paul Conlon, I don't even want to talk about the Chargers. That was brutal. Quentin Johnston, hope there's no TCU alum in the chat, because one of your former receivers needs to be. I don't know what needs to be done with him, but he needs to not be throwing any more balls on a Monday night game.
Yeah, little problem there catching the football there, Pete.
Little bit. That seems to be your job. I mean,
he was a little nervous. I mean, sometimes they just get nervous.
Yeah, nerves. That's great.
You can't excuse them for that. I don't. No.
It is a holiday week. Maybe had some turkey grease on the fingers.
Yeah, good point. I'm right now. I'll tell you, Pete. This is a good chance for you to delay, because I realize the title is completely jacked up on this show right now. I'm going to take 30 seconds to switch it. So let me ask you a question, Pete. And this will
fire
be
away.
Good way for me to delay before we talk about the stakes here. Uncle Jim, last night we talked about my 2025 Kentucky Derby future wager on Uncle Jim. We had a great discussion. I really enjoyed it. You were part of it, of course, along with Paul and Matt Miller. Here's the one question, and, try to take myself out of the equation, or just take out of the fact that you know who made the bet and any kind of true emotions you might feel for me with this question. And that is, what would you consider a successful Kentucky Derby future wager? Now, I guess the easy answer would be, well, of course you win. Well, look, that is not very realistic. I know people are going to say, then why make the bet? We already talked about that last night, Pete. So
that's like saying if you don't win the Super Bowl, the season sucks. I mean, there's levels to everything.
Yeah. I mean, in your opinion, if someone makes a bet 5.5 months before the Kentucky Derby on one horse, what would you consider a successful Kentucky future Derby wager?
I mean, I think successful, the most successful is getting in the gate. I think not the most successful, but I mean the most reasonable success is just get me in the gate and give me a shot. That's all I
Sure.
care about. I mean, I guess because I think back to last year, the two horses I liked when we first started this process for last year, the two horses I liked, Knightsbridge and Parchment Party, they didn't make their debut as 3-year-olds until what, last month, a month and a half,
Right.
2 months ago. So if I would have put wagers on them, which I thankfully didn't, then it would have been a very unsuccessful future wager because they wouldn't even have given you a shot. Now, I guess if you get into, if you get a horse who at least is giving you a run in some of the big derby preps, the 100 pointers, then at least that's something. I think that's maybe the next level down. That's like making the wild card round.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but I think if you get to the gate, you're pretty happy. I mean, right? The last 2 years, the horse you liked got to the gate and was bet down, which is even better. But even just getting there, you're like, now I have a chance, as opposed to just, my horse gets hurt and now I'm ripping up my ticket in January for some reason or something like that.
Yeah, Pete, I'd be lying if I didn't say in my wildest dreams, where I think 2 years in a row, 5.5 months before the Kentucky Derby, I would have the second choice in the Derby.
It's crazy, right?
Horses that just broke their maiden. I mean, I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I mean, we're just talking about the topic of what would be a
No,
success.
no offense to you. It's dumb luck just because you picked the right horse, but it's still dumb luck because we see how many get scratched the week of the Derby. I mean,
Sure.
when did Forte get scratched? I mean, horses get scratched so late.
Oh no, I give these horses like massages and
I know.
And
Well,
candy
you're a
peppermints.
freak.
Remember, there was the police got involved last year. You recall?
Yeah, there was some. That, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not supposed to talk about that because we're still under. We're still under
there's
subpoena,
restraining order.
But yes, we're still under that.
People right now that know about the show, Peter, are saying, "What did Howard do? I didn't do anything. It was a running joke that I loved Sierra Leone so much they'd have to put a restraining order out because I loved the horse so much. It was just a running joke." Everyone, but honestly, I think you're right. I think if Uncle Jim is in the Derby field, that would be unbelievable, to be honest.
I don't care if you're 100-1 because wait, Rich Strike won. I mean, what if somebody named Rich Strike wasn't in the futures table. We didn't even talk about him on the pod 2 days before. But still, what if somebody's name was Rich and you had that horse and it somehow makes the Derby on a scratch and wins the damn thing? I mean, that's just crazy, man.
Yeah, no, I think making, and like you said, if he's in the wood or the bluegrass or like has a chance to get into the Derby, that'd be the semifinals, right? That would be the second.
I agree. Yeah,
best
for
thing.
sure.
So we got Matt Miller's in the chat. He said totally agree. Pete goals to get into the gate, whether that's the Kentucky Derby or attorney. We will get our share, hours of, I think he means of strikeouts and home runs in those moments. It's those moments to savor. No question, the journey is what it's all about in the Kentucky Derby Future Prep. I bring it up because not only did we talk about Uncle Jim last night, but Pool 2 is coming up this weekend, Pete, to the Kentucky Derby Future Wager. So anyone could bet a lot of these horses depending on the price that you want. So anyway, fun discussion. We got a big weekend. We'll talk about Thanksgiving instead of a rant. We'll make it positive, Pete. I think it would be appropriate to ask what we're most thankful for. Well, exactly. I mean, there is no better way to end our last show before Thanksgiving than that. We don't want to end with an angry, typical rant from my nephew Paul Halloran, right? We don't want that.
There you go. No, we don't need that.
I'm sure
he'll be ranting. I'm sure he'll be ranting himself on Thursday. So there's horse racing.
Oh, he's ranting at the dinner. He's ranting at the dinner table right now with his family about something. I mean,
he's probably got a pick 5 going at whatever track is going on right now.
Zia had some big
I'm sure
today.
he's got. Yeah, that's right. So I'm sure he's got a pick 5 going there that he's bitching about.
Oh yeah. All right, so Pete, there's 2 grade stakes on Thursday, Thanksgiving. There's 2 grade stakes on Friday. Hey, one more quick question. Do you actually play the horses on Thanksgiving? Have you played the horses? I mean, Fairgrounds usually has a really good card. They have a good card again. Churchill runs on Thanksgiving. I mean, do you dabble or do you gobble on Thanksgiving with the horses, or you just you almost never do?
I have. It's not a guaranteed thing. It all depends on the day. Like it depends if I'm. It depends if I have time to handicap in advance because usually on the day of, it's hard to. I assume what do you do? Do you play?
I do. I usually play a little Churchill and I usually play Fairgrounds. I'm not playing Fairgrounds this year, at least not planning on it. As you know, I am traveling this year out to the West Coast, excuse me, tomorrow morning to see my brother and sister-in-law, which I'm very excited about. So I don't know exactly my plans out there, but I will be playing a little bit because look, what else is there to do other than the dinner? You got
Yeah.
football now out there on the West Coast, Pete. Oh, we'll just go full screen. It's going to be the Bears. Actually, are I can't believe I got to watch the Bears on national TV, but I do. They play the Lions. That's gonna be
Hey,
what
their games are
9:30.
interesting
That's gonna be
some weeks.
9:30 West Coast. I've never been on the West Coast. I think for Thanksgiving, so that's gonna be crazy. All the football's
That's
gonna be done by
crazy.
like 1. So what are you gonna do from 1 to 5 until
Then
right?
it's
I mean,
horsey
so
time. Horsey
there you go,
time, my
horsey
friend.
time.
Horsey time. Yes.
All right, Pete. Let's get going here before we lose any audience here. Falls City is the first race we're talking. The Falls City Stakes. It's a grade 3 on Thanksgiving. It's a mile and eighth, $400,000 to the purse. This is race 9. All these races are at Churchill Downs. It is the start of the late pick 4. However, we are not. I repeat, we are not talking about pick 4 and pick 5 sequences on this show, as we're just focusing on the grade stakes. Morning line favorite in this race, so they're going a mile and eighth. That's for the older filling mares. Is the number 2, Tarifa, certainly a horse we know very well. Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt. Let's see who we are going with here on the screen. Give me just 1 second, and I'll pull that up. It's a small field, but it's relatively wide open. I'm going completely. I must have had some early tryptophan or something. I'm going totally off the radar, Pete. That's not a typo. I'm going 8-6-4. Pete's going 4-2-3. Pete, let's talk about the number 4, Musical Mischief, 2-1. Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Morales. What do you like about the 4, Musical Mischief?
Yeah, so I was looking at it, and you know the first name that jumps out is Tarifa. Obviously, I don't think we need to look at
No,
the
we don't need to look
Breeders'
at
Cup
that.
Classic. Yeah,
Go ahead. I am in the process of switching. You can just go ahead and talk. Here we go.
I think the first name that jumps out is Tarifa. So maybe in your mind you think, oh, I'm going to look at this race, and Tarifa is going to be the favorite, and it's probably going to look like a standout. And then when you look at it, she doesn't really look like a standout to me, aside from Pratt, and Pratt's just always. You never know what he's going to do. I lost the pick 5 last week because I left him off with Laganos, and I was so pissed because I usually put his horses on just for the hell of it. But I'm looking at it going, I don't think Tarifa jumps off the board, even though you see some of the horses she's lost to. So I'm like, let me go elsewhere and see if there's anyone else I like. And Musical Mischief is just a horse 3 for 5, 3 wins at Churchill out of 5 starts, and has won her last 3. So the last 3 times she's been at Churchill, she won. She's 2 for 2 in the top 2 at a mile and an eighth. So the distance isn't an issue, even though she fluctuates a mile and a 16th. And what I like is when I look at the time form, it looks like a hot pace, and she's in the middle of it, but she doesn't have to be. And the way I look at it is hopefully maybe she's not in that middle spot contesting the pace, but maybe she works her way over and is either sort of first over or could sit in that pocket behind the speed, because she's shown that she could sit off and win races. So I was looking at it like that and thinking, well, last time Tarifa went to the top, maybe Musical Mischief will be the one that could settle back, close a little bit. I don't love the speed horses that are there, so that's the way I'm looking at it. Maybe we could take down Tarifa and get a decent price. And Morales has rode her the last two wins, so I'm not bothered by that, even though the stats aren't that great at the meet. But at least there's familiarity with this horse, and got a win last time in a grade 2 aboard her. So
I think I heard you say the phrase "first over." What are we betting harness at the
I
Meadowlands
know,
tonight?
I
What
know.
the
That's
hell is
my
that?
that's my harness coming out. But
That's all right.
that
I
is
we can teach about harness. It's first
yeah.
over for people who don't know about harness racing. That'd be the first one on the outside, and it's not usually a good thing in harness racing. They want to get cover and they want to like
Yeah.
draft in behind, sort of like NASCAR or car racing in general.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
don't want to be first over unless you can clear and get to the top, right? Pete in harness racing.
Yeah,
Anyway, I
when I
digress.
think first over now, I think second off the rail is probably like in the
Yes.
second hole or whatever you want to call it.
In the pocket, yeah, you can in the
Yeah,
pocket,
yeah.
or you
Or
can
right
be
off.
second
Yeah,
over would
yeah,
be
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pete, I don't know, man. I don't
I
want
don't
Musical
hate this
Mischief.
play, even though it was a toss for me, but I don't hate the play. I looked for a way, but I don't know. It's not the best field.
I don't look. I've been working on my Spanish lately, and that's the only reason. No, that's not the only reason. Look, Musical Mischief, the number 4 is a nice horse. Tarifa's fine. Although I think Tarifa's been a little disappointing, to be very honest. She's just never really. I mean,
Yeah.
look, she's in stake races with low 80s or high 80s, low 90s. I'd love to own her, but you know what I mean. Just
It's
a
not a
lot of these
layover
horses, Pete,
situation. Yeah, there's nobody that just looks like a complete standout.
they just don't do it for me, man. And
No.
I'm just going to go with a complete flyer. I don't know if the number 8 Quattro Evente can run at all. This is a Uruguayan bred horse for Paul Lobo, who certainly knows what he's doing with South American imports. I
Man,
mean,
how's he doing at this meet? Look at that. 6 for 13,
6 for
8 for
13 at
13 in
this
the
meet,
top
right?
two.
Luan
Yeah.
Machado is a solid jockey. Look what this horse did, before she came to the States. She was in Group 1, Group 2. Look, I don't know how good those horses are, to be honest, in Uruguay, but she's in Group 1, Group 2's going long distance, left-handed on the dirt. This is a dirt horse, Pete.
Yeah.
This is a dirt horse, and I'm guessing Lobo just wanted to give her a start in the States, just on the turf. And look, she ran well. It was a hot pace. She got an 85 buyer, 110 time form. It was on the turf. Now she's off more than a month. She's got acclimated to the United States, and you know what? She's gonna be a big price. I don't know if she's gonna be 30 to 1, probably 20 to 1.
Yeah.
Pete, I just don't like a lot of these fillies and mares in this rate of low prices. And I will admit, for everyone at home, I could be completely wrong on this horse. I don't have any special intel. I don't have a replay to show that's like, ooh. It's just I don't want a lot of others. I'm going 864 here. I do like Loved as a horse. I know she's been inconsistent, but I think she could be on the lead or just sit right off. Gaffleone has been injured and I'm sure is not riding. At least I don't think he'll be riding Love. So we'll see who replaces her. And then I've got your 4 Musical Mischief in third. I know Tarifa can win. I'm just not a fan of her speed, and she's going to be 7 to 5. She just hasn't really improved from the spring. Actually, you could say she's almost digressed, if not stayed the same. She's supposed to be running high 90s at this point or mid 90s, and she's just not. So I'm going to
Yeah,
take a
she's just not
complete
better.
flyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take a complete flyer with the Paul Lobo number 8 horse at a bomb.
Can I just mention real quick the 3?
Sure,
Nothing special. It's
sure.
on paper and on form and on figures, maybe is
Yes.
a step below and seems like a step below. The one thing I do like though about this horse, once they started stretching her out, so 3 back. I mean, they in last year she ran a mile and a 16th, but this year when they brought her back, they stretched her out. She gets a nice third and actually made sort of a winning move, and then just got run down. But then they stretched her to the mile and an eighth, and she got 2 wins. And again, the time forms aren't too far. They're not that far off. And again, we look at the time form sometimes, you and I know we both like that. And the time forms aren't like Tarifa's best time form is 113. This
Mm-hmm.
one ran a 111 2 back. So it's not that
Yeah.
far off. And it made you be just one of those horses. And you look at the breeding out of Mendelssohn with Flat Out,
Yeah.
it might just be the distance that's preferable. And again, in a race where I don't love anything, I'll take a horse that's 2 for 2 at
Yeah.
the distance, 3 for 3 in the money at Churchill. Not bad for me.
You want to pronounce that one? Is it Pinois?
I think it
Pin-
was Pin.
Is
Noir
do
is
we
the
pronounce the
is how you
G?
say this. The no, I don't know. I didn't.
Okay.
I don't remember listening. I
All right, who
watched the
cares?
replay, but I don't remember
Whatever.
listening to what
All
they
right.
said, and I have no
All
memory.
right.
So that's my problem.
All right. Well, anyway, I think Pete's going with the 4. I'm going with the number 8 Quattro e Vente. We're trying to get creative, or at least I'm trying to get creative. And Pete's we're both going against Tarifa, who I think will
Yes.
be the favorite. Let's go on to the other stake race on Thanksgiving Day. It is the Cardinal Stakes. You see our picks on the bottom of the screen, and let me go ahead and bring up the Equibase. This is race 11 on Thanksgiving Day at Churchill Downs. The Cardinal. It is a grade 3, and it's on the turf. And the rail's 24 feet out. $300,000 is the purse. Older fillies and mares, 1 mile and 8. It's a big field of 11. Marlene favorite is the number 6, Implicated, for Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone. I'm going 2-6-7. Pete is going 7-3-2. Now, Pete, you know how much I like talking about the weather. I don't know if you've been watching the forecast, whatever. It is getting cold, and it's going to be getting cold. There's a pretty strong cold front coming through the Midwest, and all of a sudden we're going from like late summer into like early winter. There's just no fall anymore. I don't know what's going on, But it's going to be, I'm assuming they're going to be on the turf. This is the last weekend of racing coming up here at Churchill, and they only have like one turf race a day. They're going to try to squeeze them in. But, when it's like 25 degrees, or when it's, when there's moisture because of the overnight coldness and frost, that makes the turf a little bit dicey. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be on the turf, but we shall see what they're going to do. We'll just assume they're on the turf. Let's talk about the 7. Stir Crazy for Michael Maker and Luis Saez.
Yeah, this is a pretty good race, competitive. Again, nobody jumps out as a star or anything, but I thought it was a pretty competitive race. This one, there's not a ton of pace to close into, and that's my one concern, because you see this horse doesn't break very well. Always likes to be as a little bit further back than maybe you would like. But I like that Saez is back up again and got a feel for her last time. And even with it, there was a pretty solid pace last time, but was able to get her in the mix, even though she broke badly, sort of got her up into contention sooner. And she just looks like she's sort of leveling off. Like, she's not getting much better, but she's sort of leveled off to a point where I think she's really competitive here. Her only bad race since she's been on the turf in this recent stint was at Kentucky Downs 2 back. And those Kentucky Downs races, you could sometimes the horses just hate that track. So you could just toss those, I think. And if you look at the form around those 3, I think they just fit really well. I think if we could somehow work a little bit of pace, or Saez can be a little more aggressive, I think she's going to be in a really good spot. Again, she's moving up a little bit, first time in graded stakes, but she's 2 for 2 in the top 2 at Churchill. She's got 2 seconds at the distance. So I think all signs are pointing to where she's going to be really competitive here. And I just want to see if she can get the trip that I'm looking for.
You said some horses don't like, some humans don't like betting.
Some humans don't like betting it. Yes. And I think that goes hand in hand, unfortunately.
Stir Crazy, which is what I might be, Thursday night after watching so much football and horse racing and turkey that I'll be eating.
Yeah.
She's fine. I think it's a good pick. I've got her as a B. She can certainly win the race. Maker does a great job. Obviously, Saez is, for a guy who was sort of having a little bit of a struggle early in the summer at Saratoga, has really come around, Pete, I thought, in the last 3 or 4 months, and really showing his skills. I'm going to go again with a little bit of a flyer, although I must admit I did not know the morning lines when I made this decision. I'm going to go with number 2, Magic Loot. Now, Magic Loot for Ian Wilkes is McLean's music, and you wouldn't think of McLean's music would necessarily love turf out of a flatter Mare Street song, but you know what? She only has one lifetime start on turf, and it was the last one. And I thought it was pretty darn good. I mean, she got an 86 buyer. I know she got a good trip. She closed really well on the outside. We'll show the replay. Got a 111 time form. She's the one in this race. And look who she finished right behind.
2-3. Yep.
Sir Crazy, your choice. And this was her first start on turf, Magical Loot. So you want to pay attention to the 1 and the 4 here. So the fact that, she did it, I know she saved ground on the inside, and your horse was a little bit wider, so she got a perfect trip. But again, this was her first start on turf, and you don't know what's going to happen here. Well, just Watson Lane just stays on the inside here, gets through. What a tremendous ride to find, to actually had to come to the outside is actually, I think she stays on the inside. Yeah, just very patient ride, stays on the inside. Once she found room here, Pete, this is a pretty strong kick. Now, again, it's nothing, there's no steady, it's not spectacular, but I mean, if she's going to be that much bigger price than the 4, and she was not that far off, I don't know. I'm going a little bit of a price. You see the gallop out here, which I always watch. You wonder, did the 1 really have more in her? I think there was more there. I mean, she galloped out in front, so she had to wait a little bit. It was a little bit tight on the inside. Maybe I'm searching for something that's not there, Pete. But again, Magical Loot's going to be 3 or 4 times the price probably, and just like the last race, there's just, I don't know. I'm not blown away. I don't like Duvet Day here that much at all.
I'm with you on the 2. I mean, I had her in 3rd, and she's excuse me, she's right there for me. And what I liked too was they put her in some big races on the dirt, so they must have thought there was some talent there. I mean, you see in a couple graded stakes against Scylla, Honor D Lady, there were some good horses there. And then what I did like is maybe, like you said, maybe when they put this horse on the turf, they just didn't know what they had. And maybe it just moved her forward. And now if she can move
Yeah,
forward second off that,
I
she's
agree.
right in the mix and at a double digit price. Yeah, from there, Duvet Day, in all honesty, I put in second. I didn't love the
You
horse.
did.
There's there's two reasons. One is Pratt. I always get scared when the horse picks up Pratt, and I think
Yeah.
there's at least some talent here, and I think Pratt can work out a trip and move it up. There's a win here at the track, although it wasn't overly impressive, and it wasn't necessarily, it was a while ago. But that, although Michael McCarthy 0 for 18 in graded stakes on the turf across the Kentucky circuit, so not necessarily his strength. But again, if you pick up Pratt and you have a little talent and it's in a field that I don't love, sometimes I think he could just move a horse enough forward that if I was playing like a pick five, I don't know if I could leave this horse. If I was playing a caveman, I don't know if I could leave
Yeah.
this horse off because I'd be pissed if I can get some prices home and lose to Pratt on what looks like a
Well,
relatively talented horse.
as good as Pratt is, though, these West Coast horses coming east on turf.
Yeah,
Not I know she's been, she's had 2 starts in the Midwest, but I mean they weren't
true,
really great.
true.
So I don't know. I'm against Duvet Day. I don't think I'm gonna use her at all. I'm gonna try to beat her, but I mean she can win, I suppose. I think the horse to beat might be implicated, but I have serious questions about the distance here, Pete. I'm
Distance. Yep.
assuming
Yeah.
Walt's not going to put her here, but they don't really have a lot of options. I mean they can go out to California with a very difficult turf festival this weekend, but she's not that quality. And so this is probably the only real spot to run her at. And I just don't know about the mile and eighth. But if she's aggressively used, I think she could be tough to beat if she gets a nice, comfortable trip in a slow pace. The number 6 implicated, but I'm going to
Brendan
go for an
Brendan
upset. It's
Walsh 0
another
for
race where I'm
18.
not a big fan of the favorites. I'm going
Yeah.
to go a little bit price shopping, Pete.
Yeah, no, I agree. Implicated Brendan Walsh 0 for 18 in stakes races on the turf at Churchill for anyone who's looking to knock the favorite a bit. But yeah, I agree. This could be one of those where if you don't like the top couple, I think it's pretty open as to who can win it, unfortunately. I think this is one
Yeah.
where you could probably see. I think I had 2 A's, but then I had 4 B level horses. So I thought there was a bunch when you get past sort of my top two. And I think we talked about, yeah, Stir Crazy and
Yeah.
Duvet Day I had as sort of the best ones. But
Should be interesting. Gonna be a lot of people in the chat. Thanks for watching tonight. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, the like button, all that good stuff. Let's go on to Friday, Pete. Now, Friday is traditionally a very strong card at Churchill Downs. It is again this year. They have 2 grade stakes, the grade 2 Miss Revere, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And then, of course, the feature of the weekend used to be a grade 1. It is now a grade 2. It is the Clark for older males. We've covered this race a lot over the
yep.
years. We've seen some really nice horses run in the Clark. A lot of them actually go on to the Pegasus and some other races, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the Miss Revere first. The Miss Revere is race 10, and it is on Saturday. And you got to give me a second. Well, as I talk about the Equibase, as I bring up Equibase, give me a second. It's a different day here, Pete. Do you like to bet Friday, or are you a shopper on Friday? Is it Black Friday for you, or is it like I'm assuming you don't work on Friday. Most people don't.
No,
What's the
not
day
this
after
year.
Thanksgiving like for you and your family usually?
It changes because sometimes I work because it's an easy day and you don't have to do too much. And I usually just sit at my computer and do nothing most of the day. But I used to be a Black Friday.
How would that be different than any other day at work
I
for
know
you?
it's really not, unfortunately. I used to be like a midnight 2 a.m. Black Friday shopper back in the
Oh
day.
gosh.
I used to really enjoy
Oh,
doing that, actually.
really?
Yeah, I
Oh.
would just go by myself and go to like Best Buy or something
But that
and
was
come home
before you
with
could
like.
go online and shop, right?
That's the
Probably.
thing. Now you could get the
Yeah.
Black Friday deals on Monday before
Right.
Thanksgiving, so you don't
Right.
have
Right.
to.
Right.
I mean, I'd come home with like 3 TVs and
Oh,
DVD players
really?
back in the
Wow.
day,
I didn't
stuff
pay
like
for a
that. Yeah.
single one of them.
And then just
Just you were looting with
just
the rest of
mug people in
the rest of
mug
the
people in
hooligans
the
out there in
parking lot.
Maryland.
Yes,
We
yes,
know. I'm just kidding, Maryland.
yes.
I love Maryland. All right, Mr. Veer, here we go. Grade 2, Pete, on the turf, mile and 16th. Again, rails are out. It's going to be. Look, they haven't gotten rain, but it's been cold, so I have no idea how the turf's going to play. It's going to be on the softer side. It has to be because of the temperature, but hopefully they'll be running on it. Big field here with 3 AEs. The morning line favorite in the Miss Revere on Friday, race 10 at Churchill, is the number 3, Kehoe Beach. This is a very exciting horse for Wesley Ward and Frankie Dettori, the number 3, who's been on an absolute roll lately. Let's go and see who we're going with. I am going 7-3-6. Pete, you're going 6-3-7. So in a big field, we are going to 3 more logical contenders. So I'm going to talk first about the number 7,
Go ahead.
Minushka. Now, Pete, number 7, Minushka, you have third, was pretty highly regarded in her first start. And I remember the race very well because I think I might have singled her that day, or I'm not sure. I know I liked her, and look, she was 6-5, so the word was out. She was a European import for Brendan Walsh last time when she ran at Keeneland. She was in Group 1, Group 3s, barely lost a horse named Lorray, which actually has won here in the States for Clement in New York. So the form fit. And this last race, Pete, wow. I mean, she came from the 11 hole. She's the 12 in this race. We got to show this replay. This turn of foot it sort of reminded me of was it Beau Cachet? Was that the horse that came from behind? Or maybe not Beau Cachet. There was a
No,
horse.
that was the one that horse got on
Yeah,
the
there's a horse
lead.
that came from behind in her debut at Churchill. I'm losing the name now, but if you watch the beginning of the race, Pete, she's the 12. She broke, traditionally slow like they do. She's gonna have to break better. She broke okay. She did get bumped, and she just wasn't rushed at all. She's way back here, Pete. She's last, and it wasn't like a flying pace. I mean, 24. That's not flying.
No,
Look where
very
she
moderate.
is, 49-2. And she just was very patiently ridden. She's right here on the inside. What a tremendous ride. And boy, when she finds room, and she's right, she's still in hand, Pete. She's still in hand. She's still in hand. Okay, it does open up nicely. This explosion, Pete.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, right here, instantaneous and completely blows by the field here. This turn of foot it looks like she's just getting warmed up here, Pete. I mean, this was
she was
about as
fantastic.
about as easy as you can do it. Now,
Saved
that was
ground the whole way, which was nice.
no
Though.
doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was a much weaker field. Obviously, she saved ground. She found room. I think based on her form in Europe, Pete, I think this is a pretty special horse here, and she needs to be up closer because the main competition number 3 is very speedy. So I'm hoping Tyler, whoever's on Minushka, has her more like mid pack. I don't want her last in this spot. I think she's a chance to run him down. I think this is a very talented horse who we're going to hear a lot from. I'm guessing Brendan might send her to Gulfstream over the winter and just do some damage there, I would guess, or maybe the fairgrounds. I don't know where, but she's got major grade 6 written all over her, Pete. I was super impressed with that replay.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the only thing that and she was an A for me. So actually all 3 of mine were sort of even, and it was just picking nits, moving who was going to be first, second, or third. But I did like that. The only thing I thought here was that I think the horses that are going to be in front of her in this race, that if they get better trips and can get away a little bit, they're a little harder to run down than the one she ran down last time.
No doubt.
So that was basically my only, and that's not even a knock. And the only other thing was, it's always weird to me when the foreign horses come over and they get to run on Lasix and then don't. And I know we talk about that spotty on here sometimes, but she ran on Lasix last time. Obviously, she didn't overseas.
Yeah,
but you just don't know what that did. Yeah, it's just very weird to me, and I don't really know how to gauge it one way or the other. So. Okay. I just thought of it that way, but I think the horses, it's going to come down to trip, where I don't think she's going to be able to just blow by some of these quality horses as easily.
I agree. You got Pinup Betty, 5-1 morning line. Boy, you got some maker love tonight. And Brian Hernandez, very nice, consistent horse who prefers to be forward, and will get the jump on the number 7 Minushka.
Yeah, and actually, it's a similar thing to the last race we talked about, where if either that last one or the one before, if you look in 2024, she hasn't done anything wrong. She's run really quality races. The only race she wasn't that good in was 2 back, and it was at Kentucky Downs again. And that's just a funky track. You never know what could happen. She came out of a grade 1, like she ran out of the money twice, but they were both grade 1s against She Feels Pretty. It was top notch. Cinderella's Dream. Top notch. We're talking like Breeders' Cup level horses there, which she won't necessarily be facing here. So in those other races, when she's sort of down just a touch in class, I think that's where she fits best. So I think trip wise, right, I think she can get the jump on the 8, or she can get, or the 7. Sorry, Manushka. She can maybe get the jump there, and there's a little bit of speed up front here, and I think that's where she can. That's where I think if she's going to win it, it's because she gets ahead of a horse like Manushka, and Kehoe Beach isn't able, who we're going to talk about, isn't able to carry that
Yeah.
speed, the extra, the extra whatever, the mile and a 16th, as
Here,
opposed to what she's used to.
here's my feeling with Keel Beach. Then we're gonna move on to the Clark. She's the horse to beat. She's only 3, but it's the end of the year. She's by far the most tactical and speedy, and she's gonna be on the lead.
Yeah.
I think this is a tougher field, number one. Number two, Pete, she's been on very firm turf courses, and I think it's going to be a little bit softer, and I don't know if that's going to work well for her. And I think she's going to be 8-5. And I just, again, I don't mind taking favorites. I take favorites all the time when I think it's right. But I think the 6 or the 7 can beat her. I think the 6 will be closer than the 3 early. I think the 7 has got more upside and just has a more explosive turn of foot. And I got to believe they're not going to let the 3 just completely walk on the lead. Now, maybe the 3 doesn't need to walk on the lead. Maybe Keel Beach and Dettori can just bottom out the field. But I'm gonna obviously I'm using Keel Beach, but I'm gonna try to beat her. I'd be shocked if anyone else won on 3, 6, or 7 here.
I do like I like Dettori on a race, in races where he can get on the lead and
Yeah,
dictate the pace. I think
sure.
he's really strong still when that happens, and he did that last time. Again, it's to stretch out a little bit, and again, we don't want to beat a dead horse. She's never been off Lasix, so this is her first time off Lasix since it's her first graded stakes. So you never know how they're going to react to that as well. And she has gotten some cushy paces too, but it looks like she might get one here too. There's just not a lot of other speed, which
Yeah,
again, that was my concern with Manushka was, man, if they just let this horse go and they go whatever, they go some crazy 48, 49, 50, how some of these races
sure.
go, then it could just be nuts.
Well, you don't want to take Manushka out of her game. I mean, if I was riding, I wouldn't like send her hard early, but it's her second start in the state speed. I think she will show more natural early speed.
Yeah.
And people say, well, she's 10 points too slow. I see no reason why Manushka can't jump up to a low 90s in this race.
No.
I think we just saw the very tip of the iceberg there in that Keeneland race. Let's get to the Clark, Pete, and then we'll talk to everyone what we're thankful for, and we'll wrap up the show. The Clark, this is always a really fun race to me, and I think I said grade 2 on the screen. I got to switch it. All right, it says grade 3. I got to switch that to a grade 2. Usually we see um, some Breeders' Cup Classic horses in this race. There are no Breeders' Cup Classic horses in this race, and I think part of the reason is because it's like only a grade 2, and I think it's been a little less purse, 600,000. And let's face it, the Breeders' Cup Classic was what, 14 horses, right? So I
Yep.
mean, it was a huge field this year. So circumstances have changed. Now let's go and look at the feature race, really of the weekend, along with the Saturday races. And by the way, Saturday Churchill races are going to be covered tomorrow, Wednesday night, by our great guys with Benton and Boozit. So check out the show tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 7:30 Eastern, as they're going to cover the big stakes card Saturday with some major 2-year-old races, especially at Churchill Downs. Let's go ahead to the Clark, Pete. The Clark is race 11 on Saturday, $600,000 a mile and eighth. Of course, it's 3-year-olds and up. It's important to mention because 3-year-olds have actually done pretty well in this race in the past. It's a nice field of 10 and then with a lot of familiar faces. The morning line favorite is a horse, I've chased the last 2 times, Pete,
Yep.
and I've done it successfully, which I'm happy about, although I don't like him this time. The number 6 Hit Show for Cox. Cox has 2. He also the number 5 most wanted. Hit Show is scheduled Tyler Gaffleone, 3-1 morning line. I'm going with the other Cox. I'm going with most wanted, the number 5 at 7-2. I'm going 5-3-7. Pete, you're going 6-7-3. So you are going with Hit Show. We both like Brad Cox horses. We just have different ones. Talk about Hit Show, who's going for his 3rd in a row, Pete, and he is as sharp as he's been in his career right now.
And that's sort of the main, one of the main drivers, and has 2 wins, including the Lucas Classic with his lifetime buyer top and a pretty nice time for him last time, 2 back, I should say. But yeah, he's just really in great form. And the thing I like is on paper, there's some speed here. So you're going to talk about your horse, Most Wanted. There's speed in the middle, there's speed to the down on the rail, and there's speed to the outside a bit. So I think Hit Show's the type of horse who can just sit that perfect trip and say, yeah, you're going to bring up the time form here. So right where they have Hit Show there is perfect. So if I'm looking, if we do get that speed from those top three and even the two a bit, if that does play out the way Timeform thinks it will, then I think Hit Show is just in a perfect position to come up on them at the top of the lane or so and pounce. And that's what he's been doing in his last three races, and in basically in 4 out of his last 5. All of his wins in 2024 have been sort of in that fashion. Let me sit 4th or 5th. Let me attack them, get up to like 2nd or 1st. So at the top of the lane, I'm there. And then he's pretty strong, and he's resilient down the lane. Like, he's a hard fighter down the lane. And you just like that in a race where, again, I don't think there's a standout. So it feels like this one could be a fight, and he's pretty good in a fight.
He is. He worked this past Saturday in 1 minute and 3/5, but that was a full second slower than a horse named Uncle Jim, who worked 59 and 3, as we talked about yesterday on our Kentucky Derby Future podcast. Pete, here's my feeling on Hit Show. I have no problem with your pick. You know I like this horse in general. He's won, four of his last 5. In fact, he's won half his lifetime starts, for God's sake, 7 out of 14. I think this is a tougher spot. I think these are better horses. He's gotten 2 great trips. And although he's improved, it's not like he's been that impressive. In fact, he got a 93 buyer last time. So I am very negative to this horse.
He get a 124
on
time
Saturday.
Though, by the way.
He did. I know this horse pretty well, Pete. And look, I hope, for your sake, I hope he wins. I just think this is a much tougher spot. And,
it's definitely a tougher. It's a good field, man.
Field. You know what? You're exactly right with the pace. And I am concerned about that. And you know how much I'd like to look at the pace situation here. The number 5 Most Wanted is exactly the horse that I most want in this kind of race, Pete. A progressive 3-year-old who keeps getting better. He's running figs in his 3rd and 4th lifetime start, Pete, that are as good or almost better than Hit Show. Yeah. I mean, so, can he sit a little bit off and finish? I got to be honest. I don't know. But he's been off since September. He's off for 2 months. Brad Cox clearly pointed to him to this spot. It's not like he loves Hit Show so much that he's worried about running someone against Hit Show, which, I think that's something to consider there. I know some people are against Flo. I understand to some extent. Florent Drew is still a very good jockey. He's not first call anymore for Brad Cox. And, he's had a few questionable rides, the last few years, whatever, in high profile situations. He knows this horse, Pete. I think this horse can get up to 100 buyer. And if he's capable of rating, which I'm hoping he is, I don't know if he can. He did in his debut. If he can just sit a little bit off, I think this is the most progressive, interesting, perhaps most raw, talented horse in this field. And if he just can get the right trip, I think he wins. And at an okay price, not worried about the distance. I like Most Wanted here in this spot quite a bit. He is going to have to lay off the speed. And if the speed sets up, we're both going with a very likable horse that unfortunately doesn't quite win as much as you'd want, but has faced some very, very difficult horses in Tapit Trace, Arthur's Ride, Laurel River in the Dubai World Cup, National Treasure. Oh my goodness. They're at next. There's none of those horses here. We're talking about the Rapoli horse, the number 3 Croupi at 4-1 for Todd Pletcher and Irad. The problem for me is he needs a lot of racing luck. He needs to come from way back, Pete. But you could argue that he's the most classy horse in this race.
Yeah, and if you look at those races you talked about, I'm not sure there's a race on the page, at least in most of them, where he should have won. And I don't look at him and think, I can't believe he didn't win that race. Like, I think he probably should have lost in almost every one of those races, aside from the ones that he did win. And he got the job done when he was facing horses that maybe he was better than for once, instead of being a little bit behind the top level horses. And has Irad, which is always nice. That's not a bad thing, especially when you're coming from off the pace. The key for him is going to be, does that time form pace scenario play out? Do those horses go, and do they heat it up a little bit? And that's going to hurt a horse like yours, but that's the only way that I can't see Croupi running down a nice horse who gets away, or if Most Wanted sort of
Yep.
sort of sits like you said, and then gets a nice lead, that's a too talented of a horse maybe to run down. So it's going to have to be it just heats up, fades, everybody fades a little bit, and then he could pick up the pieces.
And again, Pete, my most wanted case. Again, most wanted 97, 98 buyers, good time for him in his third and fourth lifetime start. And Kruby runs that at best. I know he got a 106 to Whitney, but that one sticks out like a sore thumb, right?
Yeah.
So, look, it's going to be very much pace and trip dependent this race, but I think either one of our three horses can win.
We
Let's
got to talk
mention
about the
Rattle and
7.
Roll.
Yeah, I was just going to say we got
Rattle
to
and
talk about
Roll,
that one.
another horse that I've liked over the years and really had a tremendous 2023. Tailed off a little bit at the end. I don't know if he's good now as a 5-year-old. That's my concern, but he is capable of running a big race. 7 for 8 in the money, Pete, at Churchill. 3 for 8 on the win end, 8 for 22 on the win end lifetime. A very likable horse. Another one that would benefit from a pace collapse, but I think will be in front of Krupe throughout the race if the lines, if these horses run to what they usually are. Like Krupe will be like second or third to last, perhaps.
Yeah.
Rattle and Roll could be sit like, 6th or 7th, I think.
Yeah, and the thing I liked, and it's sort of you hinted at it. So there was, I mean, you look back, there was a year layoff basically. So came out and didn't. I think you liked Rattle and Roll in the Lucas Classic when we talked about it last time, if I remember correctly. And I thought he
I
ran a
did.
pretty credible race off
Yeah,
of
it
a
was
year
okay.
layoff. And what I like though is he came out, and if you look at the works, he's had 3 of his 4. I think there were 4 works since, maybe, or maybe there's a couple more than that. But 3 of those were pretty strong works. So
Yeah.
maybe it could just be that, hey, that was the tightener off a year. Now you get 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 4 really strong works. Maybe this horse is just back. If he's back to where he was last year, I mean, at 5-1 or so, he fits right at the top. He's got
Sure
7 out of
does.
8 at Churchill, so he's definitely been successful at this track. So I think there's a lot to like if you can get a price on him.
It's a fun race. Yeah, I'll just go through the field really quick. Bowlesy on the inside, blinkers on Notori. This horse will probably show a little bit of speed.
Yeah,
Grand Aspen definitely wants to show some speed. Is not good enough though, in my opinion. Paroli for the Italians. Shock you didn't go with this horse.
yeah,
Ran nice last time. It's a major step up
just
in class. So
outclassed here. Yeah,
no doubt. Red Route 1. Where's Paul Halloran? We got to interrupt his dinner. Paul loves Red Route 1. This is
I
another
don't
closer. That's not
I don't hate
completely
it.
out of it, Pete. If things work out, Cook
No,
Creek's going to go. Although I don't think Cook Creek's going to get loose here, but Cook Creek's going to heat up the pace. Uno Mas Bourbon is just 2 out class. This is a fun race. It's a really good Clark. These are horses that are deserving of a grade 2. These are grade 2 types, borderline grade 1 horses. They're just not quite Brewer's Cup Classic caliber. Fun race on Saturday, Pete.
yeah, it feels like, I mean, grade 2, like I know it got sort of downgraded to a grade 2, but this feels like a really, really strong sort of grade 2 race where it's just fun.
I
It's
agree.
evenly matched. There's some good horses. Again, I don't look at it and think, oh, somebody's going to win. Like maybe Most Wanted. If Most Wanted just starts to be great, then you could be like, oh, maybe there's a Pegasus horse. There's a classic horse down the road if he can stretch that far.
Right.
But I think he's the only one. Everyone else, we sort of know who they are at this point, but they're good. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope. Again, we're not going to talk about best bets or pick 4s or pick 5s because we just talked about stake races. So, Pete, appreciate the thoughts there. Of course, we have no Paul Halloran tonight, no rant. I don't want to rant. It's the holidays coming up here. So, Pete, I asked you a simple question. I sort of prepped you for it earlier in the show. Maybe you had some time to think about without getting too cheesy or sentimental, or if you want to be that way, feel free. I'm a pretty emotional guy. What are
Yeah.
you most thankful for, whether it be the podcast or family or just life in general?
A little bit of everything. You know what? Sometimes you have to sit back. We all have things day to day that we complain about, whether some people complain about work, you complain about losing a pick 5 ticket, you complain about a lot of things. But when you really step back sometimes and you look at what you have, and I think that's the way to really soak it in. And this is the time to do it. You look at your family. I look at you guys, like, the way we've come together as a podcast, but as friends and stuff, where it's, hey, now I have people, it's just people, like people you
Yeah.
could communicate with, people you could share a love and a passion for something that you all have in common. And we do that with horse racing. And we do that. I have friends that we talk gambling. We have friends that we talk sports, and it's just fun. And when you take a step back and you look at it from that perspective, I think we have a lot more to be thankful for than maybe we appreciate day to day.
I think so. Very well said. If you whatever you have thankful for, people at home listening live, put it in the chat. And if you watch this as a replay or listen as a replay, put it down below the video player on YouTube as I'm looking at the chat right now. I'm going to mention two things. Well, our Stephanie right there, HHH Racing Podcast, has really cranked up their game this past year. Thank you, our
Thank you.
Stephanie. We really
Appreciate
do
that.
appreciate Rain Cromley in the chat. Thankful of the HHH Podcast and chat fellows. Absolutely, Raymond. We love our chat people. I'm going to get a bit sentimental. No reason. I'm not going to be emotional, but I'm going to get a bit sentimental. As most people know, I teach high school math, and I always tell my students every class, and this year it's about 125 of them total in my 5 classes. Pete, both my parents passed away in the month of November. My father in 2017, and my mother in 2010. And I bring that up not to be melancholy or sad, but just when you look around the dinner table of Thanksgiving, I mean, just be thankful for the people that are there, right? And I tell my students who are anywhere between 15, 18 years old, they have a tough time looking, trying to figure out what they're going to do tomorrow, let alone look ahead to 10, 15 years, etc. But we can all get into arguments with our family members and friends, and you know what? None of that really matters, to be very honest.
Nope.
I would say just don't sweat the small stuff. Life's too damn short. Anything could just happen at any time, and just appreciate the people you have around you. And on that note, this podcast has just been awesome for me personally, Pete. Like you said, forget the friends, family. I like how I feel about you guys. And unfortunately, I don't get a chance to see you too much in person. But hopefully, maybe 2025 that will
One of these
change
years.
based on your schedule and whatnot. But I don't see you in person to tell you how I feel about you and everyone else. And this podcast is really a family to me, and it's so great to not only lean on people about horse racing, much more importantly to lean and talk to people about life and any things that come up that we need to talk about that are much more important than which four-legged friend is going to win race 5 at Churchill this weekend. Much more important things. And so I'm just very thankful for this podcast. I'm thankful for all of you at home, ladies and gentlemen, all our fans, viewers, and listeners. Again, we couldn't do it without you. And I have a goal, Pete. 2025 is going to be the year of 5K. We're going to try to get 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's a goal that I've been thinking about. We're going to have a little bit of a 5K campaign. It has nothing to do with short marathons. We're going to try to get to that 5K plus subscribership on our YouTube channel and keep growing our power picks. And something that I'll talk to you about a little bit later. And Paul, I will just say nothing's official. I do have a conversation next week, Pete, and Matt Miller doesn't know this. Actually, no one knows this. I'm breaking this right now. I don't know what's going to happen or if something's going to happen. Let's just say a major racetrack has reached out to me to do some promotional work for their racetrack on the HHH Racing podcast. So
Beautiful.
hopefully that'll come to fruition where we might be covering a particular major track in great detail and get some sponsorship from them, Pete, which would be awesome. Again, it's in the very beginning stages, but I do have a meeting next week. So
Awesome.
when if something happens, Pete, I will let you and Paul and the rest of the gang know. That'd be very nice. Let's just see the bottom of the screen here or in the chat. We'll end this way here. Katie says amen to what Raymond said. James says, appreciate and thankful for you, Howard. Oh, thanks, James, for having such a great show and outstanding colleagues like Pete on for entertainment purposes, in quotes, entertainment. Well, look, Pete will help you, find some winners too once in a while. I mean, give
Every
the guy
once
a
in a
break,
while. Yeah, I like to think I add a little handicapping as well, but entertainment
There
is
you go.
my specialty.
Look, if that's the worst thing someone said to you,
I've
Pete, I
been
mean, you'll
a
take it,
lot
right?
worse things have been said about me, or on screen and off. So I'm happy for
Janet,
that.
happy Thanksgiving, Howard, Pete, Paul, and everyone. Good luck with your bets. Thanks, Janet. Look, we really do appreciate everyone. We're going shorter tonight. We're going to end the show here. I wish everyone a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And we're filming here on Tuesday night. I'm flying out to the West Coast to see my brother and sister-in-law and some other extended family as well. So I'll be out of town until Saturday. I will say Sunday is the Hawthorne, or this weekend is the Hawthorne NHC tournament. So I'm going to try to get $1 million bonus qualifier. I'm going to try to qualify. I'm going to try to win one of the days so I can get the chance of winning $1 million if I win the NHC. That'd be exciting. Matt Miller's going to try to get his second entry in the NHC. So good luck to everyone at Hawthorne, and shout out to Hawthorne for the Thanksgiving weekend Hawthorne Invitational with, I believe, 12 NHC seats total on the line in the 3 days, Pete. So very exciting. That'll wrap it up. Again, we want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Appreciate everyone listening and watching. Again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, and hit that like button. For my wonderful co-host, Pete Visco, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz. This has been episode 382 of Picks and Ponies. Crush your bets this Thanksgiving Day weekend at Churchill Downs and all of their grade stakes. Gobble, gobble. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.